Absolutely, you see, the journey to Allah is not about distance. It's about the walls we build within ourselves. And the biggest wall, the most stubborn barrier is our ego. Ego is sneaky, it doesn't come announcing itself. It comes dressed as confidence, as pride, as self-reliance, and sometimes even as spirituality. But the moment the ego rises, the heart drifts away from Allah. Even if we are performing all the rituals, even if we are praying 5 times a day, reading the Quran, fasting, giving charity. The ego whispers, I am enough, I can handle this on my own, I deserve this, I know better. And just like that, we put a distance between ourselves and the divine. Where is Allah? He is not somewhere far away in a space beyond our reach. He is closer than our own jugular vein, yet the ego blinds us. When a person is stubborn, when a person is prideful, Allah is there, but we cannot see him. It's not that Allah has left. It's that we have placed a barrier, a screen, a filter of arrogance, selfishness, and self-importance, through which nothing can penetrate. The ego is the veil, and the moment you remove that veil, Allah's presence is felt. The moment you lower your pride, Allah's mercy touches your heart. Think about it. How often have we been angry, hurt, or offended, and in those moments, Allah's guidance seems distant? Not because he isn't near, but because the ego has taken over. The ego says, I won't forgive, I won't humble myself, I won't let go. And in that stubbornness, Allah's closeness is blocked. It is in surrender, in letting go of control, in acknowledging that we are not the center of the universe, that we find him. Wherever the ego steps aside, Allah steps closer. Many people mistake humility for weakness. They think that lowering themselves or yielding to Allah is somehow a sign of inadequacy. But humility, the kind that comes from recognizing that the ego is not the guide, is the source of immense strength. This is the paradox. The stronger your ego, the further you are from Allah. The weaker your ego, the closer you are to the one who controls everything. The heart that lets go, the heart that bows, the heart that is ready to admit mistakes, is the heart that touches the divine. Ego manifests in different ways. Sometimes it is the arrogance that refuses to accept guidance. Sometimes it is the stubbornness that resists change, even when we know the change would bring us closer to goodness. Sometimes it is subtle thinking that our prayers, our charity, or our sacrifices make us superior to others. Ego is never comfortable with equality or submission, and yet that is exactly what Allah desires from us, not weakness, but sincere submission. Not pride, but humility, not self-centeredness, but heart-centered awareness of Him. And here's the reality. Every moment spent feeding the ego is a moment spent distancing yourself from Allah. Every argument fueled by pride, every action done for recognition, every thought of self-importance, it all creates a wall. You can be generous, you can be religious, you can memorize the entire Quran, and yet, if your ego dominates your heart, Allah remains just beyond your perception. You are surrounded by the divine, but your heart is blind. Now think about what happens when we let go. Not just in theory, but in practice. You forgive someone who has wronged you, not because they deserve it, but because Allah deserves your obedience. You accept advice without thinking it undermines your intelligence. You lower your pride in moments of conflict, realizing that Allah's guidance is far more important than proving your point. You admit your mistakes without shame, understanding that growth begins where ego ends. And in these moments, even if nothing else changes externally, internally, your world transforms. The weight lifts, the heart softens, the presence of Allah is no longer a concept, but a reality that fills your being. It's easy to think that letting go of the ego is a single act, a one-time decision, but it is not. It is a constant practice, a daily struggle. Every time the ego rises, every time you feel the need to assert yourself, every time you catch yourself thinking, I deserve this, I am right, you have an opportunity. That is the moment to choose again. That is the moment to step aside and let Allah be near. That is the moment where surrender is not defeat, but victory. Victory over yourself, over your desires, over your pride. And let's be honest, This is not easy. The ego is persistent. It has been built over a lifetime, layer by layer, reinforced by society, by upbringing, by our own habits. It wants to dominate, to control, to dictate your perception of reality. But every time you resist it, every time you humble yourself, every time you choose Allah over self, you break a chain. You chip away at the wall that separates you from the divine, and gradually, day by day, moment by moment, Allah becomes not just a distant concept, but an intimate presence in your life. When you perform sajda, when your forehead touches the ground, remember, you are not just performing a ritual. You are saying, I am not the center, you are. You are surrendering your ego, your pride, your self-reliance, your illusions of control. And in that act, Allah descends into your heart. He was never far, but now the veil is gone, and you can feel His nearness. So, wherever you are in life, whatever struggles you face, remember this. Allah is not lost. He is everywhere, closer than your own heartbeat. But your ego, your stubborn self, is often what stands between you and Him. To find Allah, you do not need to travel to distant lands. You do not need to perform grand gestures. You do not need to achieve impossible perfection. You simply need to let go of pride, let go of arrogance, let go of the illusion that you are the controller, the decider, the ultimate authority. Let go of the idea that the world owes you, and suddenly you are not just letting go of ego, you are letting Allah in. In life, there will always be voices telling you to hold on, to assert yourself, to defend your pride. But the voice that matters most is the one that says, release it, bow down, humble yourself, let go. That is the voice that leads to the eternal. That is the voice that makes the impossible possible. That is the voice that brings the heart in contact with the divine. Where is Allah? He is wherever the ego is absent. He is in the hearts that are soft, not hardened by pride. He is in the hearts that surrender, not in the hearts that resist. He is in the moments where you admit, I am not in control, you are. And that is not weakness. That is the strength that reshapes your life, that fills your days with clarity, peace, and purpose. So, when you feel lost, when you feel distant, when you feel that Allah is far away, do not blame Him. Look inward, examine the ego, examine the pride, the stubbornness, the self-importance. Wherever that falls away, wherever humility rises, there you will find Him closer than your heartbeat, more intimate than your own breath, waiting patiently for you to let go and simply be near. And in this realization, you understand the secret of life. The closer you let go of yourself, the closer you are to Allah. So you can have a full, seamless, motivational speech. Do you want me to do that next? Letting go is not just an act. It is a practice, a lifestyle, a conscious decision repeated every single day. Too often we think that letting go is about giving up or being weak, but in reality it is the exact opposite. It is the act of stepping into a higher dimension of strength, awareness, and connection. Wherever you release your ego, wherever you release control, wherever you release the insistence on always being right, you find Allah. He is there waiting, patiently, quietly, loving every effort you make to open your heart. And the beautiful thing is, letting go doesn't just bring you closer to Allah. It transforms the very essence of your life. Think about the moments when you hold on to anger, resentment, or grudges. How heavy is that burden on your heart? How often does it keep you awake at night, gnawing at your peace? That weight is not punishment. It is the echo of the ego refusing to surrender. And when you let it go, not because the other person deserves it, but because Allah deserves your obedience, your heart is freed. The act of letting go is an act of trust. You are saying, I may not have control over this situation. I may not have control over people. I may not understand why things happen the way they do. But I trust you, Allah, to guide me. And in that trust, miracles begin to happen. Letting go is also about humility. It's about realizing that you are not the center of the universe, that life doesn't revolve around your desires or your timing. It is about understanding that Allah's wisdom surpasses your comprehension. Every moment we try to control outcomes, manipulate circumstances, or force people to act according to our wishes, we are resisting the natural flow that Allah has designed. And resistance creates suffering. Letting go is the antidote. It is the act of surrender that opens the heart to infinite possibilities, to guidance, to mercy. Consider the small acts of letting go that happen in daily life. When you forgive someone who has hurt you, it is not always easy. The ego screams, "They don't deserve forgiveness. I am right. I was wronged." But when you choose to release that ego, to release the need to defend yourself, you open your heart to Allah. When you let go of pride in relationships, in work, in social interactions, you find that connections deepen. People respond differently to you, not because you have changed them, but because you have changed yourself. The ego is gone, and presence, clarity, and peace take its place. Letting go is also about patience. Life tests us constantly, not to break us, but to teach us. And when we cling to our plans, when we insist that life must move according to our timeline, we create frustration and disappointment. But patience, combined with letting go, is transformative. You step aside, you trust Allah, and you allow the process to unfold. And in that unfolding, you find blessings that were invisible when you were trying to control everything. Sometimes letting go is not about a single act. It is about a continuous practice of trusting, releasing, and moving forward with faith, even when the outcome is uncertain. The paradox is striking. The more you let go, the stronger you become. The more you release, the more power flows into your life. Strength is not about holding on. It is about letting go of what is unnecessary, what is harmful, what blocks your connection with Allah. Every resentment, every grudge, every moment of pride you release, Allah replaces with His guidance, clarity, and mercy. And that replacement is beyond anything the ego could ever imagine. Letting go also cultivates gratitude. When the ego dominates, we constantly measure life against what we think we deserve. We complain, we compare, we feel entitled. But when you let go of that need, when you release the expectation that life should conform to your desires, you start to see the beauty in what you have. You start to see Allah's signs everywhere, in the people around you, in the breath that fills your lungs, in the simple gifts of each day. Letting go opens your eyes to abundance rather than scarcity, to mercy rather than frustration. It is essential to remember that letting go is not about passivity. It is not about giving up your responsibilities or surrendering your efforts. On the contrary, letting go empowers you to act with clarity and purpose. When the ego is removed from decision making, you act from a place of wisdom rather than impulse, from a place of faith rather than fear. You act with discipline, with intention, with understanding that your efforts are valuable, but the outcome rests with Allah. Letting go does not diminish action, it refines it. It elevates your actions from self-serving attempts to meaningful contributions aligned with divine guidance. Every act of letting go is a spiritual exercise. It teaches the heart that control is an illusion and that true power comes from aligning yourself with the divine will. This is why those who practice letting go consistently report a sense of peace, of purpose, of clarity. They understand that the world is a mirror reflecting the state of the heart. When the heart is dominated by ego, the world feels harsh, unfair, and hostile. When the heart lets go of ego, the world becomes a place of opportunity, learning, and blessing. Even in moments of failure or disappointment, letting go is transformative. The ego wants to cling to blame, to resentment, to shame. But letting go allows you to see failure not as punishment, but as guidance. It allows you to recognize your mistakes without letting them define you. It allows you to move forward with humility and wisdom. Every disappointment becomes a lesson, every obstacle a teacher, every challenge a chance to release control and trust Allah's wisdom. And this is the essence of spiritual strength. Releasing what we cannot control, surrendering what we cannot change, and trusting that Allah is always near. The closer you let go of control, the closer you are to Him. The more you release the weight of pride, fear, and ego-driven desires, the more room you create in your heart for his presence. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are embracing divine guidance. You are not weak. You are strong in the most profound, eternal sense. The act of letting go also requires courage. It takes courage to admit that you do not have all the answers, that life is not always fair, that other people will act in ways that frustrate or hurt you. It takes courage to forgive, to humble yourself, to release expectations, to surrender control, and that courage is precisely what strengthens your connection with Allah. The heart that dares to let go is the heart that experiences divine closeness, that feels guidance flowing, that knows peace beyond comprehension. Ultimately, the journey of letting go is a journey of trust. Trust in Allah's wisdom, trust in His timing, trust in His plan. It is a declaration that your ego does not have to run your life, that your need to control, manipulate, and assert is not the measure of your worth. Letting go is not giving up. It is giving in to a higher power, a higher reality, and in that giving, you receive more than you could ever hold onto by yourself. And so, wherever you feel burdened, wherever life feels heavy, wherever your heart struggles under the weight of anger, fear, or pride, remember, letting go is the path. Release the ego, release control, release the need to be right, and you will find clarity, you will find peace. You will find Allah waiting patiently, quietly, infinitely close, ready to guide, ready to bless, ready to fill the space that your ego once occupied with mercy, wisdom, and love. And in this, you realize the profound truth. Wherever you let go, wherever you surrender the ego, wherever you release control, there you will find Allah. Many people go through life believing that their fatigue, their lack of progress, or their inability to stay consistent is a matter of circumstance. They blame stress, they blame luck, they blame the world around them, but the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. You are not tired because life is hard. You are not exhausted because the challenges are too great. You are tired because you are undisciplined, and when you understand this, everything changes. Discipline is the backbone of success, the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, energy drains away in chaos. Focus becomes a fleeting visitor, and intentions, no matter how good, remain just ideas. But discipline is not punishment, it is not restriction, it is the path to freedom. Freedom from excuses, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from the endless cycle of starting and stopping, giving up and trying again, only to fall back into old habits. Discipline is the engine that drives you forward, even when your mind tells you that you're too tired to continue. Think about the moments you've said, "I can't do this, I'm too tired." That moment of complaint is often not a reflection of physical fatigue, but a reflection of mental and spiritual disorganization. Your body may be capable, your heart may be willing, but your habits, your structure, your discipline is lacking. Discipline gives clarity to your intentions, discipline makes your actions predictable, discipline aligns your will with your goals. Without it, every day feels like a struggle, every task feels heavier than it should, and every challenge feels insurmountable. Discipline is more than just routine. It is consistency, commitment, and conscious choice. It is choosing to rise when your body and mind want to remain in comfort. It is choosing to act even when the easier path is inaction. It is training yourself to do what needs to be done regardless of mood, energy, or external circumstances. And when discipline enters your life, exhaustion is replaced with purpose, chaos is replaced with direction, and weakness is replaced with resilience. Many confuse discipline with rigidity or perfectionism. They fear that to be disciplined is to be harsh on themselves, to deny themselves joy, to live a joyless life of schedules and rules. But real discipline is liberating. It does not bind you. It empowers you. It does not drain you. It channels your energy. When your actions are disciplined, your energy is no longer scattered on trivial things. Your mind does not wander endlessly. Your heart does not succumb to distraction. You work efficiently, you rest intentionally, you live purposefully. You discover that tiredness is often the illusion created by chaos, lack of structure, and undirected effort. Consider for a moment the examples all around us. The people who seem unstoppable, who achieve consistently, who radiate vitality and strength. Notice that they are disciplined. They don't necessarily have more talent or more luck. They have more structure. They have committed to a pattern of life that aligns their actions with their goals. They have said no to distraction, yes to priorities, and enough to excuses. And the result is a life that looks effortless not because it is effortless, but because discipline has transformed effort into habit. Discipline is especially crucial in the spiritual sense. Too often we say, "I'm too tired to pray, too busy to fast, too distracted to reflect." And yet, these are exactly the moments when discipline matters most. Discipline is what keeps the heart aligned with Allah, even when the mind protests. It is what ensures that you rise for Fajr, that you remain patient in hardship, that you act with integrity even when no one is watching. Without discipline, spiritual practices become irregular, commitment wavers, and the heart drifts back into ego and distraction. With discipline, the heart strengthens, focus sharpens, and the connection with Allah deepens. The irony is that the more you cultivate discipline, the less you feel truly tired. Energy is not a finite resource that disappears randomly. It is generated by order, intention, and action. When you live without discipline, energy leaks through procrastination, indecision, and scattered focus. Every wasted hour, every delayed task, every unprioritized moment chips away at your vitality. But when you structure your life, when you create habits of consistency, when you align your actions with your highest priorities, energy is no longer lost, it multiplies. Tiredness is transformed into momentum. Fatigue becomes the signal of growth, not of defeat. Discipline also builds resilience. Life will test you constantly. Challenges will come, setbacks will appear, people will disappoint you, and circumstances will seem unfair. But the disciplined person has an inner framework, a foundation of habits and consistency that prevents collapse. Discipline is not rigid, it is adaptable. It does not guarantee that nothing will ever go wrong. It guarantees that when challenges arise, you do not crumble because you have trained yourself to act, to persist, and to endure. Every small act of discipline, waking up early, completing a task, choosing focus over distraction, is a brick in the fortress of your resilience. The undisciplined mind confuses effort with progress. Many people work hard but accomplish little because their efforts are scattered, inconsistent, or misaligned. Discipline aligns effort with results. It ensures that what you do matters. It gives meaning to your actions. It transforms random energy into intentional growth. And here is the truth. When you see people achieving extraordinary results, it is rarely raw talent or sheer luck. It is the invisible discipline that makes the impossible look effortless. Discipline is also about self-mastery. It is learning to control impulses, desires, and distractions. It is training the mind to focus on long-term growth rather than short-term gratification. Every choice to resist temptation, every refusal to give in to laziness, every act of persistence strengthens the inner self. And as the inner self strengthens, life itself becomes easier. You stop feeling tired because your energy is no longer squandered on trivialities. Your will becomes aligned with your purpose. Your mind and body function as a single, coherent unit directed toward meaningful goals. It is important to remember that discipline is not an instant transformation. It is a practice. It is a habit that is built gradually through repeated choice and consistent effort. You will fail, you will stumble, you will feel exhausted at times, but discipline is the process of getting up again and again and choosing to act with intention even when it is difficult. And every time you do, you are building strength, character, and clarity. You are teaching your body, your mind, and your heart that fatigue is temporary, but persistence is permanent. Finally, understand this: the moment you accept that tiredness is often a reflection of undisciplined habits rather than lack of capacity, you reclaim power. You realize that you are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for. You realize that excuses are optional and action is inevitable. You realize that consistency beats talent, preparation beats inspiration, and discipline beats fleeting motivation. When discipline becomes the habit, when structure becomes your lifestyle, you no longer say, "I'm tired." You say, "I will act, I will persist, I will succeed." And in that mindset, even the heaviest burdens feel lighter, even the longest days feel achievable, even the most daunting challenges become opportunities. And so, the truth is simple but profound. You are not tired because life is too hard. You are not exhausted because your tasks are impossible. You are tired because discipline has not yet been built in your life. Build discipline, and energy, clarity, and purpose follow naturally. Discipline transforms not just your actions, but your perception, your mindset, and your soul. It is the bridge between intention and achievement, between fatigue and vitality, between ordinary living and extraordinary fulfillment. And in understanding this, you realize the secret to sustainable strength. It is not motivation, it is not luck, it is not circumstance. It is discipline, discipline in thought, discipline in action, discipline in heart. Wherever you cultivate it, wherever you apply it, you will discover that what you once called tiredness was never your enemy, it was your teacher, pointing you toward the one thing that can change everything: self-mastery through discipline. Motivational style, so your full speech will be complete. Do you want me to do that next? Spiritual discipline is the quiet force that transforms ordinary practice into extraordinary connection. It is not about doing rituals mechanically or going through the motions, but about aligning your heart, mind, and soul with Allah in a way that transcends fatigue, distraction, and ego. When discipline enters your spiritual life, the ordinary becomes sacred, the mundane becomes meaningful, and your relationship with the divine deepens in ways that words can barely describe. Discipline, in this sense, is not about punishment or restriction. It is about creating a structure within which the heart can open fully, without resistance, without hesitation, without distraction. Think about the acts of worship that we perform daily. Prayer, fasting, charity, reflection, gratitude, these are all opportunities for spiritual connection. But their true power is unlocked only through discipline. When you are disciplined in your prayers, you are training your heart to pause, to focus, to lower itself before Allah despite all the noise of the world. When you are disciplined in fasting, you are teaching yourself self-control, patience, and awareness of the blessings that you often take for granted. When you are disciplined in giving charity, you are reminding yourself that life is not only about accumulation, but about sharing, about humility, about service. And in each of these acts, discipline is the thread that weaves your outward actions into an inward transformation. Without discipline, spirituality becomes fragmented. You might pray when it is convenient, fast when it is easy, give charity when you feel like it, and reflect only when circumstances allow. But in these moments, your ego still holds sway. You are performing acts of worship on your own terms, shaped by desire, convenience, or fleeting motivation. The heart may be present physically, but spiritually it is elsewhere. Discipline, on the other hand, removes the bargaining. It says, "This is my commitment, this is my path. I will follow it, even when it is difficult, even when it conflicts with my immediate desires." And in that commitment, the heart is freed from ego and begins to experience true divine presence. Spiritual discipline also teaches resilience in the face of trials. Life is unpredictable, filled with challenges, distractions, and moments that test faith. In the absence of discipline, these challenges can shake belief, weaken resolve, and scatter attention. But when discipline is present, it acts like an anchor. You return to your practices consistently, not because the world is calm or easy, but because you have trained yourself to do so regardless of circumstance. This consistency is what deepens spiritual connection. It is the repeated lowering of the heart, the repeated turning toward Allah, that opens the door to His nearness. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about persistence, and persistence, repeated over time, builds a bridge between your heart and the divine. Consider also the role of discipline in refining intention. One of the greatest pitfalls of human effort is distraction by ego. We perform actions thinking they are for Allah, but often they are driven by recognition, pride, or desire for reward. Discipline in spiritual practice requires constant self-examination. It demands that you check your intentions, purify your heart, and ensure that your actions are aligned with your higher purpose. This alignment is what transforms mere action into true worship, and it is what allows the heart to experience divine closeness. Discipline is the filter that removes ego, leaving only sincerity. Discipline is also the key to consistency. Divine connection is not built in moments of sporadic effort. It is built in the regular, repeated, dedicated moments when you show up for your practices even when it is difficult, when it is inconvenient, when you are tired or distracted. Consistency breeds familiarity, familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort breeds depth. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And in this naturalness, the ego stops interfering, and the heart begins to resonate with divine presence. What once felt like obligation transforms into a source of joy, peace, and fulfillment. Moreover, spiritual discipline is deeply empowering. It is easy to feel lost in the chaos of life, to feel powerless in the face of challenges, to feel disconnected from meaning. But discipline gives structure to chaos. It creates a rhythm for the soul. It allows you to channel energy, focus intention, and cultivate strength. The more disciplined you are, the less you are at the mercy of fleeting emotions, impulsive decisions, or external circumstances. Discipline creates freedom, the freedom to act with clarity, the freedom to remain steadfast in adversity, and the freedom to experience Allah's presence without interference from ego or distraction. The beauty of spiritual discipline is that it transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. A prayer that once felt routine becomes an encounter with Allah. A fast that once felt restrictive becomes a training of heart, mind, and soul. A moment of reflection that once felt like a duty becomes a space of clarity, insight, and guidance. Discipline is the lens through which you see the divine in everyday life. It is the practice that transforms obligation into opportunity, repetition into revelation, and habit into holiness. It is also essential to recognize that spiritual discipline is a lifelong journey. It is not about achieving perfection or never faltering. The ego will always test, distraction will always challenge, and desire will always interfere, but the disciplined heart does not surrender to these obstacles. It recommits, readjusts, and continues. Every setback is a lesson, every moment of weakness is an opportunity to strengthen the heart, and every return to practice is a step closer to Allah. Discipline teaches patience, persistence, and resilience, and these qualities are the very foundation of divine nearness. Discipline also shapes character. The more disciplined you are in your spiritual life, the more humility, patience, gratitude, and awareness you cultivate. Discipline trains you to act with intention rather than impulse, to speak with wisdom rather than emotion, and to live with integrity rather than convenience. These qualities, in turn, refine your connection with Allah. A heart that is disciplined is a heart that is receptive, that is humble, and that is open. And when the heart is receptive, humble, and open, it experiences divine presence in ways that the undisciplined heart cannot. Furthermore, spiritual discipline extends beyond rituals into every aspect of life. It influences how you manage time, how you treat others, how you handle adversity, and how you cultivate your inner world. Discipline creates alignment between your external actions and internal values. It ensures that your life, in its entirety, becomes a reflection of your commitment to Allah. The disciplined life is not compartmentalized, it is holistic. Every thought, every word, every action is guided by awareness, intention, and consistency. This alignment magnifies the presence of Allah in every moment, making the entire life a space of worship and connection. Finally, the ultimate reward of spiritual discipline is the experience of divine nearness. Allah's presence is not abstract, it is felt in the heart, in moments of clarity, in acts of obedience, in quiet reflection, and in surrender. Discipline opens the heart, clears the mind, and aligns the soul. It removes the barriers of ego, distraction, and inconsistency. And when these barriers are removed, the heart can encounter Allah not just in ritual, but in every aspect of life. You begin to recognize guidance, feel serenity, and experience a depth of connection that cannot be achieved through intention alone. It is discipline, consistently applied, that transforms potential into reality and closeness into experience. And so, the truth is simple yet profound. Spiritual discipline is not merely a practice, it is the pathway to Allah. The more you cultivate it, the more you align your actions with intention, the more you refine your heart, and the more consistently you turn toward the divine, the closer you will feel to Him. Every act of obedience becomes a bridge, every moment of reflection becomes a door, and every disciplined habit becomes a step toward eternal nearness. Where discipline exists, ego fades. Where discipline exists, clarity grows. Where discipline exists, the heart opens to the divine. And in this opening, you discover the secret of a life filled with purpose, serenity, and connection. Transitions so it reads as one uninterrupted flow. Do you want me to do that?